In intelligence, the greatest asset often represents the greatest vulnerability. The Cold War's psychic arms race, spearheaded by programs like Project Stargate, check out the episode on that. I believe it was the first episode of this podcast, didn't just worry the CIA about the Soviet spies, it worried them about their own psychic spies. What happens if the most powerful, sensitive, and unconventional minds on the Western side are not operating under the U.S. flag but are instead compromised, blackmailed, or psychologically manipulated by foreign intelligence? This is the documented genesis of the Psychic Lure file, the umbrella codename for the CIA's exhaustive counterintelligence analysis of foreign strategies to identify and compromise Western paranormal talent and unconventional scientists. This was a threat analysis rooted in deep paranoia, confirmed by documents filed under counterintelligence series like CIA RDP 8300423R. Today, using the agency's own words, we break down the three primary strategies of the lure and the extreme measures the CIA took to vet and watch its own sensitive personnel. This is the mind-bending reality of the compromised psychic. By the late 1970s, the U.S. had acknowledged the viability of some psychic phenomenon, e.g. remote viewing. Again, check out the first episode of this podcast. Through its own programs, this recognition immediately triggered the counterintelligence apparatus. If the U.S. was serious about using psychics, foreign enemies would be serious about recruiting, neutralizing, or flipping them. The initial analysis required profiling the typical sensitive or unconventional researcher. Unlike career military personnel, these individuals were often eccentric, financially unstable, socially isolated, and often harbored deep distrust of government orthodoxy, traits that are catnip to a hostile CI officer. The mandate came directly from the Counterintelligence Directorate, a declassified memo initiating the assessment filed under CIA RDP 8300423 R00010001003-7 series clearly defines the objective, quote, prioritize analysis of foreign intelligence methods for accessing and recruiting individuals with documented parapsychological sensitivity or anomalous technical knowledge. Focus areas, personal vulnerability, exploitation, and philosophical coercion. End quote. This memo proves the agency moved immediately to analyze the specific psychological weakness of its own potential assets. CIA analysis identified three primary layered strategies used by foreign intelligence services, primarily the KGB, to compromise the sensitive Western target. These were not just abstract fears, these were documented intelligence assessments used to train CIA personnel. 1. The psychological vulnerability lure, isolation, and crisis. The first step was identifying isolation. Psychics and unconventional scientists often work alone, facing ridicule and professional rejection. The lure focused on finding the target during periods of emotional or financial crisis. A foreign intelligence officer operating under deep cover, e.g. as a research foundation member, would approach the target with empathy, financial support, and crucially, validation. An internal behavioral science report detailed the emotional necessity of this approach. Quote, targets exhibiting high emotional reactivity and academic isolation are most receptive to external validation. The offer of unconditional financial support coupled with professional respect represents the highest probability conversion pathway. 2. The philosophical lure, unconstrained research. The intelligence community knew that Western bureaucracies were often hostile or restrictive to unconventional research. The foreign lure often offered what the U.S. government would not. Limitless freedom and resources to pursue any paranormal or mind-bending experiment free of ethical or financial constraint. This was a highly effective lure against the scientifically idealistic, confirmed in a CIA assessment on foreign scientific outreach. Quote, foreign intelligence consistently utilizes the promise of unfettered research and advanced technology access to overcome ideological loyalty. The concept that their work can save the world outside of restrictive Western oversight is a highly effective motivator. End quote. 3. The entrapment lure, seduction and blackmail. This was the classic counterintelligence honey trap. but applied to a specific profile. Sensitive individuals were often targeted through agents of seduction, male or female, who would exploit their isolation and emotional need, leading to compromising positions that could be used for blackmail. The CIA analysis noted that the psychic or scientist desperate for human connection was easily manipulated. Quote, the target profile often demonstrates profound emotional need. The swift, intimate gratification provided by the foreign agent establishes a loyalty bond that surpasses professional obligation, leading to asset conversion through compromise. The analysis of the psychic lure forced the CIA to turn its counterintelligence lens inward. The most sensitive assets, like the Stargate remote viewers and the scientists consulting on behavioral programs, again, go back to the first episode of this podcast, became prime surveillance targets for the agency itself. 1. Psychological vetting and profiling. The CIA developed extensive psychological profiles filed under RDP 96 series documents associated with Stargate, designed to flag vulnerability factors. These profiles tracked financial stress, marital status, emotional stability, and any sign of nonconformity that might make them susceptible to the three lures. 2. Polygraph and deception detection. Every individual involved in the U.S. psychic programs was subjected to intense, recurring polygraph examinations focused not just on operational secrets, but on foreign contact, emotional trauma, and financial liabilities. The polygraph was used as a CI tool to detect the start of the lure process. 3. Controlled communication. The agency implemented rigorous security protocols around all foreign communications and travel for its sensitive personnel. Any contact with foreign researchers, scientific institutions, or even seemingly benign cultural exchange programs had to be pre-vetted and monitored. The paranoia was absolute because the vulnerability was absolute. The psychic lore file confirms that the CIA's greatest fear was the weaponization of the human mind against itself. Again, this isn't the first time that we've come to this conclusion. They were forced to analyze emotional need, isolation, and philosophical desperation as strategic assets for the enemy. The entire operation remains a chilling case study in the vulnerability of a genius. We have finished the behavioral science files for now. We are pivoting to a contemporary threat, but one with roots in decades of obscure CIA analysis: invisible physical manipulation. Next time, we're diving into the deeply unsettling early analysis of non-conventional attacks against U.S. personnel. We are investigating the acoustic microwave attack assessment file, the original obscure analysis of diplomatic incidents involving seemingly sonic or microwave energy blasts that caused immediate debilitating physical and cognitive damage to U.S. personnel. We will analyze the declassified memos, often filed under technical intelligence series like CIA RDP 8500192R, detailing the CIA's assessment of these invisible directed energy weapons, analyzing the potential frequency, power, and operational source of these bizarre physical attacks that target the brain without leaving a mark. If the analytical dissection of the compromised psychic bent your mind, the documented reality of an invisible energy weapon that targets the body and brain will utterly astound you. The intellectual reward of exploring these meticulously documented truths is immense, and I trust you found this analysis worthy of your continued support. I'll see you in the archives.